At BISP Solutions, we help you master the strategic foundations of Porter's 5 forces for superior CFA analysis.
All right, let's dive right into this explainer. Look, if you're grinding for the CFA Level 1 exam, you already know the pressure. You're constantly swimming in formulas, concepts, and these massive frameworks. Well, today, we're going to hang out with a pretty relatable study group of CFA aspirants, Aman, Ria, and Karan. They've actually been really struggling with their mock exams, basically hitting a brick wall in the equity module. That is, until their friend Sumit steps in to help them finally master a legendary framework, Porter's 5 forces. Here is our roadmap for today. We'll start by cracking the profitability code. Then we'll break down the 5 forces themselves, tackle a CFA practice question challenge, see how to supercharge your prep with AI, and wrap it all up with some pro-exam tips. Section 1. Cracking the profitability code featuring the golden rule.
So, like a lot of CFA test takers, Aman and Ria are super frustrated because trying to apply dry textbook definitions to actual exam questions is, well, it's really tricky. So Sumit brings it all back to square one. He defines the concept simply as a diagnostic tool. You are basically just taking the temperature of an industry to see if it's a healthy place to actually make money or if it's a highly competitive war zone where profit margins go to die.
Now, here is Sumit's absolute golden rule for the CFA exam. If you remember literally nothing else today, lock this in your brain. When the forces acting on an industry are strong, profitability gets completely crushed. But when those forces are weak, profitability soars. It is a direct, inverse relationship that you absolutely have to memorize.
Moving right along to Section 2, the 5 forces explained, breaking it down.
Aman actually asks Sumit to explain each force using pure logic, rather than just reciting textbook jargon. So Sumit lays out these 5 pillars to systematically deconstruct industry profitability. We've got the threat of new entrants, supplier power, buyer power, the threat of substitutes, and finally, industry rivalry. Let's actually walk through the logic behind every single one.
Okay, think of entry barriers like a massive fortress. Sumit explains that if it's super easy to just walk into an industry, fresh competition rushes in to grab a piece of the pie, right? And profits inevitably fall. But if you have massive capital requirements, fierce brand loyalty, or heavy government regulations, that fortress protects the industry's high profits from outsiders.
Now think about the cause and effect math happening here with suppliers and buyers. Imagine your company is sitting right in the middle of a tug of war. Strong suppliers have the leverage to charge you higher prices for raw materials, which drives your costs up. On the flip side, powerful buyers have the leverage to demand lower prices for your finished product, driving your revenue down. You basically get squeezed from both sides, and your profits tank.
Rounding out the forces, Sumit explains to Ria that the sheer availability of alternatives, like, say, consumers easily switching from drinking coffee to drinking tea, severely limits an industry's pricing power. You literally can't charge whatever you want if your customer can just walk across the street for a cheaper substitute. And finally, intense industry rivalry, that just leads to margin-killing price wars. It's basically a race to the bottom.
Section 3. CFA Practice Question Challenge. Test your knowledge.
All right, now that we've got the theory down, let's test it out with some real CFA-style practice questions to see if it clicked. Check out the options for question 1, and take a quick guess before we see how Karan answered it in the study group. Keep Sumit's golden rule in mind. To increase profitability, we're looking for a weak force or a really strong defense mechanism.
And Karan totally nailed it. The answer is C. High barriers to entry keep new competitors out, meaning existing companies get to keep their high profits. Options A, B, and D are all strong negative forces that would just drain your profit pool.
Okay, here's a classic scenario-based question. You are definitely going to see this type on the exam, so don't let it intimidate you. Just apply Sumit's golden rule to figure out the answer. You are simply checking the strength of the forces being described in this hypothetical scenario.
Aman hits the nail on the head here, realizing that having weak forces across the board results in exceptionally high profitability. Think about it. If you have no close substitutes, high entry barriers keeping everyone else out, and very few suppliers to squeeze your costs, your industry has incredible pricing power. Profits are absolutely going to be high.
Watch out, guys. Be careful with this one. It's a classic exam trap designed to test your understanding of what specifically limits the price tag you can slap on a product. Read the wording carefully. What directly reduces your pricing power?
Karan spotted the trap perfectly. The answer is A, the threat of substitutes. Substitutes act as a direct ceiling on your pricing power. If you try to hike the price of your coffee way too high and tea is a readily available, cheaper substitute, your customers are just going to switch. Your pricing power is entirely capped by the existence of that substitute.
Section 4. Supercharge prep with AI, working smarter. So Amin raises a totally valid point in the group. Actually analyzing real, complex industries takes way too much time when you literally have a mountain of other CFA modules to study. That's when Sumit introduces Microsoft Copilot. AI can radically accelerate your revision by doing the heavy lifting of industry analysis in seconds. It lets you focus on actually studying the results rather than digging through hundreds of pages of market reports. Ria is absolutely amazed by this simple two-step process. You literally just type in a prompt, like asking it to analyze the telecom industry using the McKinsey framework, and it instantly spits out beautifully structured insights on entry barriers, rivalry, and pricing power. Generating these insights on demand? Yeah, that is a total game changer for your prep time. And finally, Section 5. Pro tips for exam success, Sumit's strategy. Before the group wraps up for the day, Sumit drops some absolutely crucial final strategies. Notice how these tips actively pivot away from just rote memorization. The CFA exam isn't just going to ask you to list the 5 forces. That's too easy. You have to focus purely on applying cause and effect logic to realistic scenarios. Use the elimination method to cross out forces that just don't fit the math, and keep analyzing real-world examples using AI so your brain stays agile. This quote right here, this is the ultimate breakthrough for the study group, and honestly, the core philosophy of the entire equity module. When Sumit said this, it finally clicked for Karan and Aman. You aren't just studying business vocabulary, you are studying the very architecture of profit. A well-deserved coffee break. The study group successfully went from total confusion to total clarity. By focusing on structure and application rather than just memorizing fancy terms, the group is now ready to tackle their mocks with actual confidence. They definitely earned that coffee. And honestly, if you've been following along and applying that golden rule of weak versus strong forces, you should be feeling that exact same level of clarity right now. So, I'll leave you with this thought to ponder in your own life. Just look at the products around you right now. The coffee you're drinking, the tech you're using. Which reporter's forces is actively draining their profits right this second? Are there way too many substitutes out there? Do they have overly powerful suppliers? Applying these frameworks to the real world around you is how you truly master the material. Thanks for joining me on this explainer. Keep applying that logic, and best of luck with your prep.